Stretch one of our program today, and I've got to run some people to the airport this morning, so I will be out of the building quickly after the program. But I do have voicemail, and of course I have company email, bill.colley@townsquaremedia.com. So if you've got a comment or question you wanted to pose after the program, feel free to use either one of those, and I'll be able to review them when I get back. I do want to point out tomorrow morning, Steve Millington expected to join us in studio. It could be a busy morning with guests because, as I say, I've asked a friend to join us and talk about HJR5, and we may actually have Chris Anderson in tomorrow. The prodigal scientist may come back in studio with us during the course of the show tomorrow. Still waiting for a response on all of that, but it'll give us a lot to talk about, and it'll be a lot of colored variety that we don't normally get on a lot of days. So we'll have a broad brush tomorrow. How's that? Also coming up on Wednesday in studio, we expect Randy Staples and Steve Millington in the second hour of the program because we're going to be doing a bit of an election preview show because by Wednesday we'll be down to 13 days, less than 2 weeks if you're a liberal and you need someone to give you some sort of a, you know, milepost there, less than 2 weeks. And we'll also be taking some of your telephone calls as well. And that'll allow you to also give us some input too, as well as we head toward the election. A couple of things I wanted to mention before we wrap up the program today. There is a story that's getting a lot of attention on television this morning. I, this is the thing. It'll get a little attention, then it'll go away after a day, so they can get back to talking about what a lecher Donald Trump happens to be. In other words, don't vote for Trump because pay no attention to these big debts and everything else and the fact that crooked Hillary's getting money from a lot of other crooked people. Pay no attention to that. Some guy writing at some liberal newspaper this morning, I saw it at Real Clear Politics, a link to it, and I clicked on it. And he says, well, it's clear from the public reaction that the WikiLeaks stories just don't matter. Well, they would matter if media had given them more attention now, wouldn't they? So we ignored the story, so the public didn't really hear about it, but the public didn't care about it because, well, the public didn't hear about it because we ignored the story. Gotcha. You see how that works? There's also a story I happened to see today. It was leading the Drudge Report for a time. I clicked on the link and it said that the reporters and these WikiLeaks coming out show you that a great many reporters have been working closely with the Clinton campaign, that they don't actually face any consequences for doing that. In fact, likely at most of their newspapers and their networks or their websites, somebody's clapping them on the back saying, hey, way to go. Yeah, we'll save the country from all of those conservatives, by gosh, because our belief system is the correct belief system. And what they believe, it's filled with all of that God stuff and patriotism. And we don't need any of that. 947. Bill Colley with you on Top Story on News Radio 1310. KLIX at newsradio1310.com. 58. Thank you for joining me. Telephone number to reach our program today, 736-0300. Washington Examiner, Clinton ally funneled money to wife of FBI agent who oversaw emails. In other words, there was a guy who was investigating Hillary Clinton's emails and her abuse of the classified emails and system and all of that. And his wife was running for office. So Hillary's people got together and said, say, she needs some campaign cash, doesn't she? Tell you what, we'll give her a big stack of money if you pay no attention to what we're doing. Well, gee golly gosh, that sounds like a good deal to me. This really gives you confidence in government anymore, doesn't it? And I got to tell you, I was related to him by marriage. I think I've mentioned that plenty of times on the program before. So I've known for over 20 years what a sleaze the governor of Virginia is, Terry McAuliffe. The writer says Virginia Governor Terry McAuliffe, an important ally of Democratic nominee Hillary Clinton, funneled nearly $700,000 in donations and support to the campaign of the spouse of an FBI official who then oversaw Clinton's email investigation. Now, don't you think something in that story isn't kosher? Before that, he was a golf buddy of Bill Clinton's. He ran the DNC back in the 1990s, and he is sort of the Clinton family go fetch boy, if you will. Call him that, go fetch boy. And that's what he's been doing most of his adult life, and that helped him get elected governor of Virginia to try and further his own political ambitions. The Virginia governor's office was full of denials about the connection on Sunday. Of course they were. And they were telling their media allies and fellow travelers, pay no attention to this. Say, did you see Donald Trump was leering at a woman over here? Yeah, take another look. See how bad Donald is? Oh, no. We didn't give $700,000. It was $698,048. You see, you're wrong already. 10 minutes now from 10 o'clock. Here's a quote. Any insinuation that his support was tied to anything other than his desire to elect candidates who would help pass his agenda is ridiculous. That's a spokesman for the governor telling the Wall Street Journal that. McAuliffe's Political Action Committee donated $475,000 to Jill McCabe's campaign in 2015, and the Virginia Democratic Party, which is heavily influenced by the governor, donated an additional $207,788 worth of support to her unsuccessful bid for office. See, it didn't matter that she won or not. He says, well, we're just trying to help out a fellow Democrat. She didn't win. But her husband, who was supposed to be looking into Hillary's background, he took a pass. He went off to the zoo or something instead that day and ignored the money and ignored the email scandal. The FBI insists that McCabe, quote, played no role, unquote, in his wife's campaign. They live together. They sleep in the same bed together. Oh, I just read in the newspaper today that you've been running for Congress for the last 7 months. How come you never told me? Gosh, things that your wife will get away with. Oh, my. I guess we'll have to go off to marriage counseling. I'm so sorry, but how can people, they believe this stuff, or they believe that you believe the lies they tell them. And they really think that it's working. But it is working because their allies in media will not amplify this. Say, I just saw Donald Trump wink at a girl. Oh. We got to know more about that instead. The writer goes on to say, months later, McCabe was promoted from associate deputy director to deputy director, which gave him an oversight role in the investigation into Secretary Clinton's emails. The McCabes together did have one meeting with McAuliffe in March of last year in which the governor and other state Democrats urged Jill McCabe to run for office. Oh, so he didn't read about it in the newspaper. He knew his wife was running for... I got it, I see. And he went over and met with the governor, and the governor said, say, see this satchel? It's stuffed with money. Yeah, we're going to give it to your wife. Did I tell you, by the way, that I'm a really good friend of Bill and Hillary Clinton? Gosh, you'd like them too. Would you like more money? Would that help you like them a little bit better? I can arrange that. After that meeting, Andrew McCabe reportedly sought ethics advice from the FBI and followed it. Look, my wife has just gotten a ton of money from Hillary's best friend here, and could that get me in some sort of trouble? Why, no, because we're not going to find her guilty of anything. Don't worry about it. He not only refrained from campaigning on his wife's behalf. Well, dudes, he does work for the FBI. That would be... Hi! I have no conflict of interest, but I'm here to tell you my wife would make a great congressman. Well, in her case, a congresswoman. Let's be politically correct about that. Unless, of course, there are other things she's not telling me. We here at the FBI are blind to those sorts of things, so, it tends to happen. He recused himself from public corruption cases in Virginia on his wife's behalf. In other words, I won't be prosecuting or looking into the details. Well, he couldn't as just an FBI director. He'd have to turn it over to the Justice Department. But I'll pay no attention to any of the other corruption going on in Virginia, especially among the Democrats, because, well, that would be seen as a conflict while my wife accepts all of these satchels of cash. They were giving it to her in paper bags. We thought at first that might be a little peculiar, but, paper is more environmentally friendly than plastic. He recused himself from corruption cases in Virginia, currently including an investigation into possible foreign influence peddling by McAuliffe himself. Terry McAuliffe? Never heard of him. No. You say he's my governor, huh? Oh, well, I've been very busy over at the FBI. We G-men are tracking down John Dillinger. We don't have time for that sort of thing. 9:54. Bill Colley with you on Top Story on News Radio 1310 KLIX and newsradio1310.com. Telephone number if you'd like to reach our program today, 736-0300. That's 736-0300. Couple of other quick notes here. Daily Caller has this. WikiLeaks says that the election is a done deal. That's all been cooked, baked, you name it. WikiLeaks hinted that the outcome of the election was obvious from the outset, releasing this quote. What election? It has been clear from the beginning who was going to win. This is, in effect, a power consolidation exercise. And it is. These are the people who think that you need to be ruled because you're too stupid to take care of yourself. I had a chance some years ago to go hear the eminent historian and priest. He's both of those things. His name is Father Leonard Klein. He's one of those unusual Catholic priests in that he has a wife and family. He'd been a Lutheran and then got disgusted with the liberal drift of that church, so he was allowed to make the switch and bring his wife and kids over as well. And he said, the problem with modern American liberalism, and he was speaking about Obamacare and some of the other issues we had going on at the time, is that history repeats itself. And if you go back through history, you find constant cases of where people who thought they were smarter than everybody else thought they had to instruct everyone else on how to live. And he said, usually when that happens, the consequences end up being awful for the people who are being told this is how you have to live. He's referencing the fact that if you don't behave the way they think you should behave, then it starts out as, well, we're doing this for your own good. Then it becomes, well, we're going to have to force you to do it for your own good. Then it becomes, well, clearly it's not working, so to set an example, we're going to put your head in the guillotine and chop it off so that people out there will realize this is all for your own good. And he started citing examples throughout history where this has happened, and now it's happening in the United States. The French Revolution is probably the most obvious point. A guy like Robespierre was an opponent of the death penalty. He was one of the leaders of that revolution, and eventually, for a time, was the most powerful leader in that revolution. But they believed that what they were doing for the people of France was good. But the people of France didn't always agree. So the government, the new government, the revolutionary government, went out and killed a couple of 100,000 Christians right off the bat, because Christians were going to get in the way of the good. So that's underreported by historians to this day. There was a book released just about a year ago that finally, after a couple of 100 years, delved into what really happened. And it's just sad what happened to all of these people who decided that they couldn't give up their faith in God to believe in a supreme government instead. And then, as time went on, Robespierre realized, well, I don't believe in the death penalty, but gosh, some of these people aren't going along with the plan, so we'll have to chop off their heads because they don't know what's good for them, and they're like dumb animals, and we are smart. We're smart because, well, we told ourselves we're smarter than everybody else. This is the dangerous road we are going down in this country, and if you don't realize that, then you're going to perhaps get caught up in the snare. I'm telling you, folks, they're coming for us. And a Hillary Clinton presidency, you think right now the federal government protects too many prairie chickens and sage grouse? They're trying to get you off the land. When I was over at Grand Teton National Park a few weeks ago and I saw that they had sound meters that are trying to determine how much sound your truck or car are making as they drive through the park, because, if it's too noisy, then the bears and the moose, they won't procreate. We can't have that. So we've got to stop you from going into the park any longer and turn it back over to the innocent creatures. The innocent ones that'll eat you if you come across their path. And meanwhile, there's an airport right next door. Jets flying in and out, making all sorts of noise. But, of course, those jets are filled with the liberals and the bureaucrats who vacation in Jackson Hole. So that's okay. But your pickup truck driving by one of those is bad. God willing, if the creek don't rise, I'll be allowed to come back here and do all of this all over again tomorrow morning right here on KLIX. Rush Limbaugh is up next following news.